Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig, and today we're doing another Tyranid deep dive for you. This time we're going over the Tyranid Tyrannofex, the big, chonky gun boy that he is. Before we dive in, if you want to stay up to date on all of our content here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios, whether it's battle reports, tactics, hobby, or anything, do click that little subscribe button, like it too, in order to help out the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to help support our channel just a little bit more, we do have an Etsy shop and a channel membership if you want to get access to our members only Discord channel and member exclusive videos as well as other perks. Now with all that out of the way, let's dive into today's video. So if you haven't seen our deep dives before, this is where we go over one unit out of the Tyranid Codex and we kind of dive, deep into it and kind of get some synergies, some strategies, maybe some pros, cons, everything you need to do. This one we will have a damage calculation done at the end just to compare our options, but that's about it. So we'll head straight into the datasheet review for the Tyrannofex. This is starting at 170 points. He's got a base 9-inch move, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 7, toughness 8, 17 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 7, and a 2-up save. Big, chonky boy. He does degrade in his movement, weapon skill, and ballistic skill, which isn't great in terms of it. I'd rather attacks would have been one of those, but it is what it is. He's got 3 main weapon options as his primary. He has the acid spray for an extra 5 points. It is a heavy D6 plus 6 flamer at strength 6, AP minus 3, 2 damage, and because it is a flamer, the hits automatically hit. So awesome there. He has the flesh borer hive. It is a 24-inch range, assault 30, strength 5, AP minus 1, 1 damage. It's essentially 30 gaunts all shooting at once, and that's what he is. The rupture cannon is a 20-point upgrade. It is 48-inch range, heavy 3, strength 14, AP minus 4, D6 plus 4 damage. He does have some other weapons. He will always have as a secondary ranged weapon a Stinger Salvo, which is a 24-inch range, assault 8, strength 5, AP minus 1, 1 damage gun. And for his melee profile, he does have powerful limbs. Watch out, they are strength user, so 7 AP minus 1 damage 2. Might kill a marine here and there with it, but nothing crazy. He can take adrenal glands and toxin sacks. I would lean towards not ever taking these upgrades. We'll talk about maybe a way to make toxin sacks work, but I don't think the 10 points are worth going for adrenal glands at all in this case. He does have death throws, super death throws. On a 6+, the closest enemy unit suffers D6 mortal wounds when he dies there. Keyword to note is he does have the horned chitin keyword, and that will help him with a strat later on. So let's go into some high fleet synergies. There are certain high fleets that might benefit from the big boy being in it, so let's dive into those. First off, Kraken. The only real synergy here is opportunistic advance. Can pair very well with the acid spray. It could also pair well with the flesh borer hive, but I see it being a better option with the acid spray. High fleet Leviathan, if you want to make those rupture cannons as reliable as possible, Leviathan is your way to go. You pair it with the free reroll that High Fleet Leviathan gets as their adaptive trait, and this allows you to get a just more reliable damage out on your rupture cannons. So good pick there if you're looking for a little bit more reliable damage on the rupture cannon, as that is their biggest downside. High Fleet Jormungandr is an interesting one. So they have the basic trait of granting -1 to hit to monsters when they are greater than 8 inches away from the enemy unit. It'll work keeping your rupture cannons alive. Unfortunately, most of your other weapons are going to be close range, so it won't come into play. But the minus on the rupture cannon will be a great option. Buried in weight can be an interesting strat. That is the 1 CP to put one of these guys in deep strike. No pod required. Could be fun on the acid spray and the flesh spore hive, popping them up right in front of the enemy, doing some acid spray damage, and then maybe even charging in if you want to. Hive Fleet Kronos, of course the shooting Hive Fleet, we can't ignore that one. Base 1 adds 4 inches to the range for all weapons, all ranged weapons, so good option there. And then the adaptive trait increases the AP of 1 when you're within half-inch range. Again, you get 4 extra inches, so 2 extra inches to that half range distance. Perfect for the acid spray and flesh spore hive, which already have shorter ranges and you're going to want to be getting close anyway. Extra AP to those weapons does go a long way. You can use it for the rupture cannon, however, you'll have to be within 24 inches and you go from AP 4 to AP 5, which really won't come into play. But going from AP 3 to 4 on the flesh spore hive is huge, and the acid spray, and from 1 to 2 on the flesh spore hive is great as well, especially with armored cadet. We also have some biomorphologies that can benefit the rupture or the hive Tyrannofex. I got it, the Tyrannofex. These are the adaptive traits you can swap out. So for hunt, the only one that's really useful is fall back and shoot at -1. Not that big of a deal considering we can already shoot in melee with this stuff, but you could consider it on a acid spray one, especially if you need to fall back because you're tagged or with some pity combat thing and shoot a more important target. It's an option. Lurk has 2 great ones. Territorial Instinct, the unit, all monsters gain OBSEC, and because this model has more than 10 wounds, he will count as 5 models for OBSEC. So that does go a long way, especially if you're playing a more assaulty one, or the sit back and shoot ones can benefit from this as well. Unfeeling Resistance is also a good option. This doubles their wound brackets when determining their characteristics. So you will have to get a Tyrannofex in order to bracket him. Normally brackets at 9 or at 8 wounds. So you'll have to get a Tyrannofex down to 4 wounds before he even feels the effects of being bracketed. Could be good on your Tyrannofexes with the rupture cannon sitting in the far back, trading with big anti-tank fire. Feed also has 2 interesting ones. The first one is Stabilizing Membranes. So ranged wound attacks of 6 gain an additional AP. You could really just start piling on the AP on some of these weapons. And you have Exoskeletal Stabilization. You can advance and fire assault weapons without penalty, and monsters can ignore the firing heavy weapons penalty in combat. It could be good. Again, you're already doing that with the acid spray, the advance and fire without penalty, but if you really want to take the flesh spore hive, it could be an option there. I think out of all of these, the 2 lurk ones are my favorite, and then maybe the stabilizing membranes is a good third choice, but definitely those 2 lurk ones are awesome. Now there are adaptive physiologies. We are monsters. We can take 1 of each of these. 4 of them are good. So Dermic Symbiosis, 4-up invuln safe. Huge durability buff when you're talking about already being a 17 wound toughness 8 monster. Adding a 4-up invuln safe to just ignore half the damage. Yes, there are things that can ignore invulns these days, but still does go a long way. You can take Enraged Reserves, which for 1 model doubles their wounds bracket when determining their characteristics. It also gives you a free Epic Deed Stratagem. You can increase the effectiveness of your guns, and the only Epic Deed Stratagem that really works with the Tyrannofex usefully is Trampling Charge, which, for, a free 3 to 5 mortal wounds on a Tyrannofex on the charge is not a bad thing. You can take Synaptic Enhancement if you want them to be a Synapse creature. Not bad, especially if you're running a little light on your Synapse creatures. He can be great for passing out imperatives. Maybe he's got Venom Thropes nearby, or maybe he's got other Tyrannofexes nearby. If you're running 2 or 3 of them, wants to hand out that buff, you can give him an invuln save for a turn. You can give him the Exploding Sixes in range. Finally, a Voracious Ammunition. You can deal D3 mortal wounds in the shooting phase on a 2+. So essentially what happens is you pick a model or pick a unit that you shot as long as you scored a hit at the end of the shooting phase or at the end of the Tyrannofex's shooting on a 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds. It's 15 points. It might not be that bad of a pickup, especially on something like an acid spray. Free D3, it's basically 15 points for him to do a smite every turn, if you can think of it that way. Now there are some key stratagems to take into effect with these. So first one, Scorch Bugs. It is 2 CP on the Tyrannofex. Their Flesh Boar Hive gets 6 inches of extra range and an extra strength. Could come into play. I did do a battle report a while back where I did try it out, and it was fun and effective. Tournament staple? No, but fun and effective. Indomitable Monstrosity, which is 1 CP to give him transhuman for a phase, which is wound rolls of 1 to 3 always fail. Good option. Trampling Charge, we mentioned on the charge, a 2 to 4, they take 3 mortal wounds. On a 5+, D3 plus 3 mortal wounds on the charge. So great there, especially if you want to try and get them stuck into combat with an acid spray. Rapid Regen to heal D3 wounds. Maybe it matters to you. Maybe if you've got a Rupture Cannon one sitting in the back and you need to boost them up to a higher bracket, it could be good. Shard Lure, this is an interesting one with the, if you make them a Synapse creature, think of your Stinger Salvo as basically a flare launcher or something of sorts where you can target your main gun at your key enemy you want to shoot, but if you want your opponents to charge a separate unit and get a bonus to it, just fire the Stinger Salvo at that one random unit across the board. And as long as you score 1 hit, you just do this, and now every unit that charges them, 3d6 take the 2 highest on the charge. So awesome option if you are running a Synaptic Enhanced one. And finally, Pathogenic Slime is 1 to 2 CP, 6s to hit in the shooting phase auto wound. It is 1 CP if they have Toxin Sacs. So this is where I said, if you've got the points and are running the Flesh Boar Hive, or even, heck, even if you're running the Rupture Cannon for 5 points, if you just want to try and guarantee a few extra wounds, for 1 CP it could work. Now for some key combos and synergies to, besides the Hive Fleet stuff to think about. First I want to talk about one combination. There's not a ton with the Tyrannofex. They're really just big monster, sit them back and shoot, or walk them forward and shoot. I would definitely look, well, I should say before I do this, the reason I say walk them forward and shoot and get them to combat, because I love the acid spray one. I think you want to get them up on the midfield objectives to protect those midfield objectives, and if anyone wants to try and take them from you, they have to potentially eat that flamer, which is no joke. But this one is the only real combo you can come up with. So I'm calling him the Juiced Flesh Boar Hive. He's a Tyrannofex with the Flesh Boar Hive. He's in Hive Fleet Chronos with the standard adaptive trait. You're paying 2 CP for Scorch Bugs, and you're making sure he is in half range. He now has Strength 6, AP -2, with 34-inch range, 17 inches for his half range. It makes that Flesh Boar Hive that much more effective, and we'll see in the damage calculation just what that does to the Flesh Boar Hive. Again, is it worth it? Probably not, especially in a tournament, but if you want to have fun, I'm all about just having fun playing the models you like. Definitely try that one out. Units to pair with the Tyrannofex. Zoanthropes, always want to take a unit of Zoanthropes to get that invuln save on them. Venomthropes for a -1 to hit bubble. That goes a long way keeping Tyrannofexes alive if they're already tanky and they have a -1 to hit built in, so look at that. And if you're running the Flesh Boar Hive or the Rupture Cannon, the Tyranid Prime, exploding 6 is imperative if you're within half range. Maybe won't come up as much on a Tyrannofex, but on the Flesh Boar Hive, it could be pretty useful. Damage comparisons. So we have, as you've seen before if you watch these videos, we have 5 targets here. We've got an Eldar Guardian, we got a Space Marine Intercessor, a Gravis Armored Marine, a standard Toughness 7 3-wound vehicle, and an Imperial Knight, a Toughness 8, 3-up armor, 5-up invuln save, 24-wound Knight. I don't even know if Knights still have 24 wound. I think they do with the new Codex. I'd have to check. I don't know. So quick damage comparisons. The Flesh Boar Hive, standard one. We have the juiced up Flesh Boar Hive. We have an acid spray, and we have the Rupture Cannon. Stern Fleshbore Hive, 30 shots, you're only dropping 9 Guardians, which, you know, it's something. You're killing 2.5, oh, and all of these Marines, of course, have Armor of Contempt. So you're only killing 2.5 Intercessors, 1 Gravis Marine, 2 wounds to a tank, and 3 wounds to a Knight. So, yeah, not great there. The Juiced Fleshbore Hive does go up to killing 13 Guardians because now you're wounding on 2s and they only get a 6-up save. The Marines, you're killing 4 Intercessors, which is fine. Mainly the difference there is the extra AP. So now they're taking these on 4-up saves instead of 3-ups. Similar to the Gravis, now you're wounding the Gravis guys on 3s instead of 4s, and they have a worse save. So you're killing almost 3 of them. Not quite, but almost 3 of them. Your Stinger Salvo probably could do that last wound in them. So with that totaling, you could probably do 3. Yeah, and I'd say these are just the guns, not the Stinger Salvo. Probably could have done that, but I didn't. So, sorry. 3 wounds to the big vehicle and 4 damage to the Knight. Acid Spray does 8 kills to the Guardians, 4 kills to the Marines, 2 kills to the Gravis, 4 damage to the Toughness 7 vehicle, and 4 damage to a Knight. Finally, the Rupture Cannon, just 1 kill because of law of averages and stuff on all of the infantry. Though it will do a substantial amount of damage to the standard vehicles without an invuln save. But if they do have an invuln save, you're looking at 7 wounds. Again, no rerolls, no upgrades or anything on that. So the invuln save does hurt the Rupture Cannon a lot. But if they don't have it, personally, right now, out of all of these, the best one looks like the Juiced Up Fleshbore Hive. But remember, you are paying 2 CP every turn to be that efficient in shooting. So is it worth it? No. For me, out of all of these, I much more prefer the Acid Spray. It doesn't look like it does that much damage. But the beauty about this one is because it's a flamer, you don't have to worry about it degrading when it's on 1 wound. The thing is still going to be this effective the whole time, where the Rupture Cannon is going to be less effective and the Fleshbore Hive is going to be less effective. You can get these guys into combat, sit them on objectives, and just shoot the flamers all day long, keeping these guys, you can make them as cheap as you need to. It's only a 5-point upgrade to put the Acid Spray on it, and I think it's the best one. Which kind of goes into my conclusions. The Tyrannofexes are pretty nasty tanks. The fact that you can give them OBSEC is a good choice if you're not playing Chronos. Yeah. Serious damage potential is there. Chronos can make the Fleshbore Hives very good to infantry. Leviathan can make a pretty consistent Rupture Cannon if you want to have consistent Rupture Cannons. Definitely look at Leviathan. Otherwise, if you're not tacking into any of those 2 niches, slapping in an Acid Spray Tyrannofex, I think, is not a bad option for any army. Are Tyrannofexes top tier tournament staples? No, I don't think they are. They don't benefit from core. There is limited stratagems that really boost them up. They have limited reliability in melee, but with the Acid Spray being a flamer, they're a great option to just slap in. I only have 2 Acid Sprays. I'm thinking eventually on the list of things I want to add to my army as well as improve on the channel, I'm thinking a 3rd Tyrannofex with magnetized weapons, of course, but to try out an Acid Spray, I think a triple Tyrannofex, maybe back it up with a double Turfagon, would be just a wild list to run. I want to do it eventually. I just don't quite have the last Tyrannofex to do it, but I got the Turfagons to do it, and I've got most of the Fexes, and I got the Gons, so we'll see. Otherwise, I do think Tyrannofexes will do well in pairs, especially if you're taking Rupture Cannons. You don't want to rely on just one to be your anti-tank shooting, because if you go second and he gets caught out in the open and dies, your anti-tank shooting is gone. I always advocate for pairs when you are When it's not something like a block of warriors where you can put all your buffs into, always stress pairs of your units. If you're taking Toxicrins, I think you take 2 of them. If you're taking Tyrannofexes, I think you take 2 of them. If you're taking Exocrins are a little bit different because they are so well rounded that slapping 1 in is never a bad option. But 2 of them, consistency, it's just the way I've always learned 40K when it comes to this stuff, is I like consistency and I like duplicates in case, you know, something goes wrong or whatever. But that's all we have on the Tyrannofex. Let me know what you guys think. Did I totally miss something on these guys? I know they're not the most in-depth. There are a lot of options. People are always asking what gun to give if you're not going to magnetize it. The Tyrannofex is not that hard to magnetize. The sack, if you want to magnetize to a turf gun, is a little trickier. There's a trick to making it work nice, and that is to magnetize the bottom line. Hold on. Do I have a Tyrannofex here? Let me look. I do. I should have had these guys out. Here's a Tyrannofex. Bam. And yeah. Oops. Here's another one. We got Tyrannofexes. Do you want to see him? Oh, bam. Whoa. There he is. So what you're going to want to do is not magnetize him to the sack, but you'll want to magnetize the sack, because the sack comes in 2 halves. Magnetize the 2 halves together, and it just clips onto the sack here. This is my magnetized one, but see, there's no magnets on the sack. It just clips into his rib grooves, and then you don't have to worry about putting magnets there. Just clip the sack, just magnetize two magnets, small ones hold the sack together, and you're fine. Really recommend on these big boys magnetizing them if you can, just because they're viable weapon options, and you never know which edition is going to be the best weapon. So that's it. That's all we got for today. Again, let me know in the comments what other units you want to see. I know the Carnifexes are high on everybody's list, but besides Carnifexes, let me know. Love making these videos, and I'm looking forward to doing more with the Tyranid Codex, of course. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you members for supporting, and anyone else who does help out on the Etsy page. And we'll catch you next time here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios.